The Dundies is the first episode of the second season of The Office. This is directed by Greg Daniels, and as always, there will be spoilers from now, and I was really looking forward to this. Very briefly to recap, I started watching The Office because I tried previously, didn't like it, but I was determined to get to season 2, as I'd heard that actually it improves from season 2. But that being said, I actually really started to like the show towards the end of the previous season. So I thought season 2 is going to get even better, really looking forward to this, and that's still the case. But I didn't love the Dundies. I didn't think it was the most interesting narrative, but it was fine. So there will be spoilers from now, but I don't have too much to say at this stage. The Dundies is an annual award or set of awards that Dunder Mifflin give out, and basically Michael does this to have a celebration, but the awards are really awkward. I'll give some examples in a little bit when we get there chronologically, but they're not awards like biggest amount of sales or anything like that. They're a lot more personal and awkward. And I'll give some examples soon. We have a sub-narrative that's so tiny, but somebody wrote something about Michael on the bathroom wall in the ladies' toilets, and Dwight is not happy about this, which is quite interesting. I've never really seen Dwight as somebody who sucks up to Michael, apart from when there's job opportunity. There are a couple of occasions in the previous season where there have been opportunities for Dwight to grow his responsibilities. And in those scenes, he seemed to kind of kiss up to Michael, but I've never seen it as a kind of hero worship. But in this episode, I was starting to get a glimpse of that. And I don't know if that's how that character develops going forward, or if it's just something I'm reading too much into in this episode. But I certainly found that to be quite fascinating. But the actual concept of the writing on the wall maybe wasn't the most interesting or well developed. Pretty much the bulk of the second half of the episode takes place at the Dundies. They're at a restaurant, and I found that to be kind of boring, to be honest. I didn't care for the environment, I didn't care for the setting. Yes, it does give us a chance to see the characters in a different environment. Some of them are getting quite drunk, more on that in a moment. But one of the things I started to like about The Office is that we have this relatable environment. Many people work in offices. It is something that we can relate to. I don't like, in real life, work-based events in a social setting. I'm really uncomfortable. So when I'm watching it in the office, I don't really care for it either. So for me personally, I didn't really love that part of the episode. But that's not to say I think it was a bad decision to set the Dundies in a restaurant, because I think it makes perfect sense. But that doesn't mean that I enjoyed it. And what I did like, though, about that, and the only thing I did really enjoy about the second half, is seeing Jim and Pam interacting with each other. Pam gets very, very drunk. She is still engaged to Roy. I did wonder what would happen there. I have no idea what their relationship is like going forward, but I have found it to be quite fascinating. And I have some predictions based on what I think might happen, but I don't want to give those predictions away in case I'm completely wrong. But it was really interesting to see Pam and Jim reacting here to each other and the situation, and Pam was exceptionally drunk. And Jim, I want to praise Jim for not taking advantage of the situation. Pam she won a Dundee, and then she was so excited and she kissed Jim. It was very, very brief, but Jim didn't take advantage of that. And I think that was a really great thing for his character. I didn't really like Jim for a couple of episodes, and then I kind of became indifferent. But now I feel like he's actually becoming quite likable. So for me, that was a really good takeaway from this episode. Then we have the Dundies themselves, and I didn't write them all down, but we have the biggest tight ass and the sexiest, which went to an intern, I believe. And it's so awkward. And I'd expected nothing less from Michael. This is exactly what I'd expected from him. But would I have enjoyed this more had it been set in the office and they had like an office-based party? Yes, actually, I think I would have done. That's purely a personal preference thing. That's not something that I think is done badly in the episode. Just based on what I was hoping for, what I was looking for, what I personally like and find relatable, I think it would have been better if they were in the office and they had an office-based party There are plenty of things they could have done there, and I'm just off the top of my head fiddling with photocopiers, playing with stationery. We already know from, I think, the first episode that Jim is not unfamiliar with playing with staplers and Jell-O. So there are definitely things they could have done, and I think that would have been funnier, it would have been more engaging, I would have preferred the environment. I don't know, I just think that would have been better for me. And of course, maybe if everybody else loves what's happening, then so be it. There was one other thing, though, I almost forgot to mention this. One quote that I absolutely loved. I can't remember who said it because I didn't write that down because I'm an idiot. But it's the quote that basically the event is like a kid's birthday party where you go there and as an adult there's just nothing there for you, but the kids are having a great time and that's all that counts. And this is what we see. Michael is clearly having a great time. It's not a great event for everybody else. And I love that quote because it perfectly sums up this kind of event. And I think that was beautiful. That's a big takeaway for me. I think I'm going to remember that one for quite a while. Did I enjoy the episode? Not as much as some previous episodes, but I didn't dislike it. I'm not exactly sure what to expect going forward from season 2. As I've said, I heard that it is an improvement on the first season, and because I was starting to like the show towards the end of the first season, I'm taking that as a good sign. But whatever happens, I'm looking forward to finding out. Particularly looking forward to finding out what happens with Pam and Jim, if anything happens. It did take me maybe 4 or 5 episodes to care. And there are only 6 episodes of the first season, but it wasn't a kind of fascination at first sight. I actually found them both really irritating to begin with, but I'm actually now kind of invested in that part of the show and in those characters' stories. So I'm hopeful, looking forward to finding out what the second episode of season 2 has in store. The Dundies may not be a personal favourite episode. It may not have played out the way I would have wanted it to, but I didn't mind it. There were some moments that I didn't expect to like that I actually found really interesting, and ultimately, while I still don't think I can call myself a fan of The Office, I'm much closer to that statement than I thought I would be at this point, and I'm feeling pretty hopeful about the show.